sort of thing. Careful now.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be going through some transfer tips and plans leading into game week 18. As I'm recording this, game week 17 has not finished. Man City is still to play Leeds, so ranks could change, but there is a quick turnaround this game week with the deadline. So I'm going to be going through some players I think you can maybe have a look at and discuss some of my plans going into game week 18. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before I get into the players you should consider for game week 18, I'm going to briefly talk about the situation with Reece James. Now, during Chelsea's game last night with Bournemouth, Reece James ended up going off injured before the 60-minute mark. He signalled to the bench, he went down, and he seemed to be holding his knee. So as you can see on screen at the minute, according to Sky Sports, Reece James left Stamford Bridge wearing a brace on his right knee. So that's actually the same area which he had his previous injury that he's just returned from. And then Graham Potter said after the match that it's the same area, and we'll have to wait and see what the situation is. Now, in terms of FPL, this is really not positive news at all. My best advice that I can give at the minute is wait and see what the situation is. I think if you have to, just bench him this game week, roll the transfer if you can, and then kind of see what you can do from there. I wouldn't rush into taking him out, although we are going to look at some options you can replace him with if you are looking to get rid of him straight away. But I would just wait out and see if we get any more information coming from Potter or the doctors or Chelsea in general. Just wait and see what happens, and don't rush into a decision about immediately taking him out. I understand it's frustrating because he of course ended up getting 1 point and Chelsea did get the clean sheet, but he wasn't on the pitch to get that, so it is frustrating. But just wait and see, and hopefully we'll get more information about it. Now, if you are looking to get rid of Reece James, one of the first players I have considered bringing in is Andy Robertson of Liverpool. Now, the next 3 fixtures are Leicester at home, Brentford away, and then Brighton away. They're pretty good fixtures, I would say. I mean, Leicester have just conceded I think 3 against Newcastle. Brentford also look good. I mean, they gave Tottenham a run for the money, and then Brighton away could also be a tough fixture. But in terms of if you're kind of taking in consideration the team Liverpool is and should be on their day, you would say these are pretty easy enough fixtures where they definitely can get a result. So the first reason I've decided to consider Robertson for my team is that he has good attacking threat along that left side. Now, as you can see on screen, he has 3.12 expected assists for this season, which is extremely high for a defender. I watched the game against Aston Villa there recently, and he was getting forward a lot. Obviously his attacking threat isn't as strong as Trent's, but you know, for what you get, I think he's a good option. You're not paying as much for him as you would for Trent. Although he doesn't return all the time, he is a consistent within that team. I mean, he doesn't really have any other competition other than Tsimikas, but he rarely gets minutes unless it's in the League Cup. And Liverpool have been strong in attack recently, although one of the main issues with going for Robertson is that Liverpool have really struggled to keep clean sheets. They obviously conceded against Aston Villa, they lost against Nottingham Forest before the World Cup. Their defence just has not been what we know it can be, so that would be one of the main issues I'd be worried about. If you go for Robertson, you know, you're going to have to hope that he does get attacking returns, because his defensive returns have been really inconsistent. And like you can see on screen, he is also an expensive option when you consider what else you could go for, which we will get into later. So Robertson's one that I'm considering, but if I'm being honest, I don't think I will go for him. I think I'm going to wait and see what the situation with Reece James is, and then I may end up going for somewhere else. But if you want to fill that kind of Liverpool defensive slot, he could be a good option for a relatively cheap price when you compare him to Trent. The next player we have to look at here is Marc Cucurella, who is 5.1 million, with his next fixtures being Nottingham Forest away, Man City at home, and then Fulham away, which is a double game week. Both those games are a double game week in game week 19. Now, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about Cucurella, and as a Chelsea fan myself, I have been interested in him, but if I'm being honest, I don't know if he's the right player to go for. I mean, I watch all the Chelsea games, and whilst he is a consistent starter, he's seemingly first choice left back, especially with Chilwell being injured at the minute. He doesn't really get forward that much, especially when you compare him to Reece James or even Chilwell. He's not really the overly attacking left back like, say, Robertson maybe, or other players. You know, he's always kind of holding back slightly, and he doesn't get that many attacking returns, so I'm really not convinced with him. although there is good fixtures and you have that double game week, which gives you double the chances of getting returns, I just think the lack of attacking returns he has, and then Chelsea's defence being inconsistent, means that he may not be the best option, and he's definitely not kind of the perfect replacement for Reece James in my opinion. Now obviously Reece James has been consistently getting 1-pointers, so maybe Cucurella has been doing better in that sense, but I think if you're wanting to replace Reece James, you may want to go for a more attacking fullback, and I don't think Cucurella is really that option. And another issue is that he could also face competition once Chilwell returns. Now at the minute he has his place. I mean, he's played under Potter before at Brighton, but if Chilwell returns from injury, and starts getting more minutes, Cucurella could face a bit of a problem there. And even if Cucurella does play while Chilwell plays, Cucurella could end up coming into that left centre back position, so then his attacking returns are even more restricted. So I think that, coupled with the fact that he doesn't really get a lot of attacking returns, I think you'd be better looking maybe somewhere elsewhere. Cucurella is definitely someone to keep in mind if you are considering replacing Reece James. As you can see on screen, there's 32,000 transfers in for him already, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. So he's definitely one to consider, but I don't know if he's the perfect replacement for Reece James. The third player I think you should look at if you're considering replacing Reece James is Botman from Newcastle. Now at 4.4 million, I mean, he is a perfect budget option, playing in one of the best defences, if not the best defence currently in the league. Now Newcastle's next three fixtures are Leeds at home, Arsenal away and Fulham at home. I mean, they're three amazing fixtures, especially for Newcastle in the form they're in. I mean, Arsenal are obviously in even better form. They're currently sitting top of the league, but it's definitely one that Newcastle could hold on against. I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to keep a clean sheet against Arsenal, especially with Jesus out. Anything's possible, but obviously Leeds and Fulham at home are perfect fixtures which you'd expect a clean sheet in. Now Botman is nailed. I mean, he's been consistently playing 90 minutes in that Newcastle defence, which is the best defence in the league, as I've previously mentioned. And he's a great budget option if you're looking to replace Reece James. Now the only issue I have with Botman is that if you do go for him, it means that you may be doubled or even tripled up on Newcastle defence if you have Pope and Trippier already. Now this may not be an issue if they get clean sheet returns, it will definitely be a positive, but if they don't and they end up losing their clean sheet, then you're left with in a situation where you have three players with a clean sheet completely wiped. So I'm not often a fan of stacking my defence with the same players from the same team, regardless of how good they may be defensively, because it can end quite badly if their clean sheet does end up getting wiped. And another issue with Botman is that returns will be defensive ones. He doesn't often get any attacking returns, but I think for what you get with Botman and the fact he's nailed and he's playing in the best defence in the league, I think he maybe is the best option out of the two previous I've mentioned. You're not spending a lot of money. You can use the funds elsewhere to upgrade your midfield if you need to. They have good fixtures, maybe apart from that Arsenal away game. You could also get lucky and he could get an attacking return, like a header from a corner or something like that. So if you currently aren't on double Newcastle defence, I think Botman could be a great option, because because of what I've listed there basically. Although if you do have Pope and Trippier at the minute, I would maybe hold off and look elsewhere for your defensive replacement, just because, like I said, I don't like tripling up on defences, regardless of how good they are. But yeah, I think Botman's a great option to consider, perfect budget option, playing in a great defence with some pretty good fixtures coming up. Now we're going to move on to some attacking options, and as you can see on the screen, we're going to talk about Anthony Martial. Now last night Man United played Nottingham Forest and Martial ended up getting a goal, which was ideal. I really was hoping that he would get a return, and he did. So their next three fixtures are Wolves away, Bournemouth at home and then Man City at home. Now Wolves and Bournemouth are two pretty good fixtures, you would definitely want to play them in, but then their fixtures do turn and they have Man City at home, and then I'm pretty sure they have Arsenal away, so there's two difficult fixtures straight away. The thing is with Martial is, United have been performing well and he's been getting minutes, and he's taking his chance as we saw last night, but the only issue is he is quite injury prone. We've seen that consistently at his career at Man United. He's injury prone and his minutes are managed. Now that would be kind of one thing that would put me off. Another thing that I think you should be concerned about with Martial is that he may face competition after the January transfer window. Now, I have been paying attention to Man United's transfer news, and it seems like they are trying to go for another striker after the departure of Ronaldo, which could spell a bit of danger for Martial, who, as we know, has not always had a consistent run of minutes in the Man United team. Although, if he does continue to perform, I mean, I don't see why Erik ten Hag would not want to play Martial. I currently have Martial in my team, and I have not considered taking him out at all. I think I'm going to hold him, especially for the Wolves and Bournemouth game, and then I'll probably look to move him on, maybe to Mitrovic or somebody like that. I think, I'm just going to bank on the fact that he is performing at the minute, and he has, returned for me, so I'm just going to hold him at the minute. I would recommend that those that do have him, hold him, play him for those next 2 games, then kind of assess after that Man City and Arsenal game, although Man United's fixtures are actually quite good after the Man City and Arsenal game. I think if you don't have Martial, I don't know if I'd bring him in. I think I would probably rather bring in Mitrovic, who we're going to talk about next. I think Mitrovic is maybe a better option than Martial, and yeah, we'll discuss why in the next slide. So the final player we are going to look at in today's video is the ultimate FPL troll, Mitrovic. Now at 6.9 million, and with Southampton at home, Leicester away and Chelsea at home in a double game week, I think Mitrovic is a great option to have in attack. Now it pains me to say that because I had him in my FPL game week 17 draft for basically the entirety of the World Cup, and then 2 days before the deadline we got a press conference from Marco Silva that said Mitrovic was a doubt for the game, so of course I took him out and put in Martial instead, and Mitrovic ended up getting basically a haul against Crystal Palace. Now unfortunately that is the way FPL is. Sometimes you get unlucky. As you can see on screen right now, I've named one of the negatives with Mitrovic as him being the ultimate FPL troll, which is true I think for a lot of managers this weekend, but I think Mitrovic is one of the best striker options in the game, especially if you're looking for a third striker option, because he's nailed and he's getting consistent returns, he's on penalties. Fulham seem to have a good attack, if I'm being honest. I mean, Mitrovic is always involved somewhere, and he's just always getting returns. The only issue is he does have poor fixtures after game week 19, so I wouldn't really have him if you're playing with a 2 striker formation. I think he's perfect for a 3 striker formation. He'll just stay consistent in your team and hopefully get the odd return even when you're not expecting it. Like, there's no reason why he couldn't get a return against Chelsea. If they end up getting a penalty, Mitrovic will take it. 9 times out of 10 he'll score. So I think for a lot of managers Mitrovic is a bit of a tough subject at the minute because he did burn us this weekend, but I think he's a great option, and as you can see 24,000 people have already transferred him in. So I mean, as long as he stays fit and we don't get more dodgy news from Silva regarding his fitness, I think, if you're looking to get rid of a striker, maybe I see a lot of people already jumping off Darwin Núñez, which for me I don't think that's a good idea. I watched the Liverpool game against Aston Villa, and Núñez got a lot of chances. Now obviously he didn't convert those chances, but he was getting involved, he was hungry, he was getting in dangerous areas. So I think, if you have Núñez, I'd hold him. But if you are looking for a kind of third striker option alongside Núñez and Haaland, Mitrovic is definitely the man to go for. And even though his fixtures aren't good after game week 19, I think he's in your team regardless of the fixtures, because there's always that chance that he will get a return, as we saw against Crystal Palace when he wasn't even supposed to be playing. So yeah, I think Mitrovic is a great option, and as you can see, so many people have already hopped on him. So if you are looking for that third striker option, Mitrovic is the man to go for, in my opinion. To wrap up this video, I'm going to briefly talk about my thoughts going into game week 18. Now, as it stands, I do have Reece James who is injured. Although my current plan at the minute is to roll the transfer, wait for more Reece James news, hold Martial and Núñez and play both of them this weekend, and then just wait and see what happens. Obviously, Mitrovic with Southampton at home is a great fixture, but I don't want to be too knee-jerky and move for him straight away, because he is also at risk of missing the double game week if he does get a yellow card in the game against Southampton, so that is also something to consider. But yeah, I'm just going to wait and see what happens, roll the transfer. That'll leave me with 2 transfers in game week 19, which there is a double game week for Chelsea and Fulham in that week, so that'll give me more options to kind of move about. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. Don't move a player out unless you have to. Wait for more news, wait for the press conferences, and then go from there. So yeah, that would be my advice. So that's going to do it for today's transfer tips and plans video for Game Week 18. Obviously there is a quick turnaround in FPL, so make sure your team is ready and locked in for, I think it's the Friday deadline. So yeah, if the video was helpful, please do leave a like, subscribe, make sure to follow me on Twitter at FPLFatherTed, and again, thanks very much for watching.